It's Midnight at the Movies with RickRamos and Ibrahim Chavez. Tonight, it's midnight. It's Black Midnight. It's Black Dynamite, a 2009 Blaxploitation comedy homage. It plays with the 70s genre tropes. It plays them, but key to that is that it does it without ripping them off. It out Tarantino's Tarantino. It comes from within the cultural source material, satirizing it and satirizing the tropes without fetishizing them. It's a good gateway to the 70s Blaxploitation genre. So Rick, guide us through that gateway.
I watching this movie, it kind of gives me a little bit of hope. I saw this film in 2009 at a midnight screening, actually, at the ArcLight in Hollywood with a good friend of mine, friend that has been on the podcast a number of times, Mr. Mike Black, and we were really excited about seeing, based on a preview, a trailer for a film called Black Dynamite. I wasn't familiar with Michael Jai White's work before that. I knew who he was. I had seen him a couple of times. He looked familiar from supporting roles in a few popular movies, but also B movies that you would, straight to video. I knew he was an action star, but I wasn't prepared for what this movie was going to be. I thought, well, this is going to be just a silly, kind of stupid, ridiculous take on blaxploitation films, or the films that are commonly referred to as blaxploitation. I'm talking about Superfly, The Mac, Three the Hard Way, Truck Turner, but I think mostly Shaft. Now, I'm going to be completely blunt at this moment and say that with the exception of Superfly, Across 110th Street, and the Bill Cosby, Sidney Poitier films, Let's Do It Again, and Uptown Saturday Night, I'm not really familiar with the genre outside of the jokes that have been told about it and the scenes that I have seen that play all over YouTube. I've never seen The Mac. I've never seen Truck Turner or Three the Hard Way, or I haven't seen Shaft. I own Shaft. I just have never seen it. But these films, and in particular scenes from these films, are almost, they're definitely iconic, and they play out in homage. If you've watched, black themed films or television shows like Martin or Living Color, there is a great depth. Yeah, the 90s era, the late 80s, early 90s era of black television explosion, which we're going to talk about because of the key elements to making something like this possible. And of course, the racism of that time period and the changing face of both Fox, the WB, the CW. There's a lot of there's a lot of history and racism involved in those networks that have been talked about in other venues, but we're definitely going to bring our take on it as well. That being said, I went to see this movie, and I knew watching it within the first probably 15-20 minutes that I was seeing probably the funniest film of the year. And by the end of it, I thought, this is probably the funniest film that I'm going to see in this decade. And I was right. I didn't see anything else that was as funny as Black Dynamite. I will go on record as saying it's one of the funniest films that I've ever seen. I laughed out loud. I laughed in the theater. And I think the harder thing to do is to laugh by yourself when you're in a room watching it. No one else, just you, maybe the dog. You're sitting there and you're waking the dog up every few minutes because you're laughing. And I think part of it is it is homage, it is spoof, satire, It's cinematic satire and it's a spoof of what's come before, but the homage is the most important part because there is a genuine love for both the genre that it's depicting, the times in which these films were made, and the actors, specifically Fred the Hammer Williamson, um, uh, um, Ike, Isaac Hayes, Jim Kelly, Bernie Casey, but mostly Jim Brown. And as you watch these movies, it makes you want to sit down and dive into some of those old ones. The problem is that what makes Black Dynamite so great is that it's embracing all of the faults of those movies, which they are, in many cases, badly directed, badly written, bad acting, bad production value, and somewhat moronic. But there are moments that are just fucking brilliant. I think in a film called Willie Dynamite that you and I have traded clips from. There is a pimp's counsel that is replicated in this film, and it's hard to see. It's hard to tell which one is funnier. Black Dynamite is deliberately funny, but the pimp's counsel in Willie Dynamite is played not for laughs. It's played seriously, and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
So that's a quick.
Listen, Willie. Yeah.
Those hand you can't really replicate it because there's certain hand movements and this there's a vibrancy in the acting where it's the scenery is chewed to hell. They destroy everything in it, and I gotta say, it's funny as hell. I don't know if I can sit through the entire Willie Dynamite or some of those other films, but like the central, I guess the MacGuffin in Black Dynamite is a government conspiracy to shrink the black man's dick through malt liquor, which is there is a similar theme in Jim Kelly, Fred Williamson, and Jim Brown's Three the Hard Way, where they're CIA operatives trying to bust a government funded program to I think poison the water in the black community. It's fucking hilarious. But at the same time, it's kind of telling because part of you is like, oh, goddamn, the fucking paranoia of Black America. But then you take into account the Tuskegee syphilis experiments. Would you call them experiments, or what just downright murdering people over a slow period of time?
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking. It's when you get into mad scientist type shit.
Yeah.
Then it's a form of terrorism and a form of attacking a certain. It's even genocidal because it's attacking a group of people. It's eugenic. You know what I mean? It's it's all of that, and a lot of that even played into like vaccine skepticism with COVID.
Yeah.
So,
but then you also play in. You also go, Tuskegee, which ended, if it ended in what the mid 70s. Jump ahead 20 years, 25 years, and you have Flint, Michigan water.
oh yeah.
There's all these elements where it's like, however you want to talk to black people and say, oh, get over it and stop with that. You're living in the past. The past is a very real present. So you just continue to find out shit about the government acting against the interests of black men and women. And I think what's beautiful about Black Dynamite is that I don't. There is a series. There's ridiculousness here, but it's couched in a real life cultural background and backdrop. And if you watch these movies, you get the sense that they're like, number one, there was, is, and continues to be a struggle in the Black community to establish itself and battle against everything that white America stands for. And what one of the aspects about Black Dynamite, there's so many things about this movie that works, but I think at the end of the day, what elevates the film is that everybody involved in it seems to be having the best time in making a film. Now, films are notoriously difficult to make. If you've ever been on a set, you'll understand it's a lot of downtime, it's a lot of preparation, and it's a lot of just waiting around. And that's true even in low-budget films, but with this kind of situation where there's movement, you don't have the time to really let that kind of shit get in the way. And there's a aspect of, when you watch Michael Jai White in this film, he is doing everything that he can. He's like a kid. He's like a kid pretending to be Jim Brown. And few people can do it as beautifully as he does in this film. Now, whatever you want to say about Jim Brown, and a lot of shit has come out about Jim Brown, violence and a certain reputation that doesn't age very well, especially in these times. But Jim Brown was and continues to be a figure of power and strength, and particularly to Black men who have, especially in the 1970s, were coming out of a period where the majority of Black images were bug-eyed, step and fetch it, Amos and Andy kind of shuffling and lazy stereotypes. You would have that period from silent films and blackface and white actors portraying themselves as Black, including Bing Crosby and Judy Garland and any number of others, into a period of servants and the Hattie McDaniel, Butterfly McQueen, Mammy, and Pris characters, but also Step and Fetch It, obviously Amos and Andy on radio when they were portrayed by white men, into television where they had to be portrayed by Black men, and then the emergence of both Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier, who would elevate, but in effect they were safer. They weren't. I mean, I don't want to diminish the power of a Sidney Poitier or a Harry Belafonte, because they were both very important in the history of Black male images in cinema. But there is something about them not being threatening, because also they were neutered to a degree. By the time Shaft came about, which was, I think, probably the first blaxploitation film to be made by a major studio, you could argue that Melvin Van Peebles had created the first Black superhero with Sweetback's Badass Song, And that's a film that you're familiar with. I've never seen it. I've seen clips of it. It looks pretty bad as far as production. But at some point, we're going to have to dive into it because of its cinematic importance, and it is very important cinematically. Rated X by an all-white jury.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to give it to Melvin Peebles to go all the way out and just make it as big and make it as controversial as he could make something like that. But Shaft would come out with Richard Roundtree and directed by Gordon Parks, yes. Time Life photographer Gordon Parks. It was his first film, I think. And it was a film that saved. I'm not sure if the studio was MGM or Fox. I think it was MGM, and MGM was going under, and especially because of, I think, Cleopatra and Dr. Dolittle and a couple of other big bombs. But this low-budget film ended up making, I don't know, something like almost $100 million or something. It really pulled MGM out of the red and made it so that they were a formidable studio again. I mean, they were getting ready to sell off parts of the studio in the back lot, and this movie comes along and makes it was like an investment that nobody had any faith in, and it just changes the face of not only action cinema but the face of independent cinema. And I think the telling thing is that there were a handful of films that were black directors telling black stories, and the rest of them became, as always, white directors capitalizing on this world and directing black films. So the majority of blaxploitation films were directed by white men. So most of your Pam Grier films, Coffee, Friday Foster, what's the other one? What's the other one? Foxy Brown, Jackie Brown, all directed by white men. So,
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So once again, everything gets diluted like that, and in a sense fucked up. Like Black Hill was a black director. That's right. There was a fight with that. There's a great documentary on Netflix. And I mentioned it before. It was the great critic Elvis Mitchell. I think it's called "Is It Black Enough for You?" Black Enough for You. It's really it goes through the history, and it's really well done, and I really dig it. I recommend it highly. But it goes into a lot of this and the emergence of the black virile male. And I think that's part of the funniest aspect of it, is that the character that Michael J. White is not even playing just Black Dynamite. He's playing an actor playing Black Dynamite. Did you get that?
He's playing an actor playing Black Dynamite.
Yeah. Well,
there's a point where you're watching it and you're seeing my take was that it's so let me step back. You're watching the film,
yeah,
and you're seeing that it's a film, because you can see, for example, in certain shots, you can see the microphone hanging it drops into the shot, like because whoever's holding that boomstick, as with low budget, that they get tired or whatever, and the framing isn't right, and you can see the head of the microphone going into the shot. There are moments in a dialogue where, let's say, for example, if I'm going to show you a picture, in a scene, the person will say, "shows picture."
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't get a sense that we were watching a film about the making of a film.
No.
I got a sense that we were watching what we know to be a film
Mm-hmm.
that's bad.
Yeah.
But obviously the film is made to look like a badly made film.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly it. And that's part of the charm. But that could also be a problem if it's not executed correctly, and if you're not familiar with the source material. The story is that Michael J. White invited, I don't know if he invited Scott Sanders, the director, to his home, and said, "You got to watch this." So the story about how this was made was Michael J. White. He was working on some project and he was listening to his iPod and the song Superbad came on. James Brown's Superbad. And if you listen to that song, it's about like a character like Black Dynamite. It's just, this bad motherfucker who goes into a place and kicks ass and takes names, women want to fuck him, men want to be him. It's the standard hero, but badass and distinctly black. And Michael J. White, who was having, I don't know, I guess reasonable success in Hollywood, number one because of his look, but because of his talent as a martial artist. But those are two things that we're going to get into this later, because I want to get into the racism of Hollywood itself. His look, his specific muscular build, plus his talent as a martial artist, I think it's something that would hinder. I think it was something that hindered him in mainstream films, because he was something that was a little bit too frightening to white audiences, specifically white male audiences.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's too much. I think mainstream audiences like their black men a little bit more smaller, thinner, funnier,
yeah,
and less threatening.
It's the whole idea of putting him in a dress.
Yeah.
To not only emasculate, but to, as you said earlier, to like neuter them,
Mm-hmm.
or I mean to castrate them. And if you want to make it more animalistic, then you have to neuter them.
No, that's a big aspect of it, and I think that was the battle that Michael J. White was fighting. In Hollywood, they say, if you want to be a star, in a lot of cases, if you want to be a star, write your own material. Write something that you can star in. And he created this character, just, based on the James Brown song, his appreciation and love for Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, Bernie Casey, those guys, but specifically Jim Brown. And he ended up going to a costume shop, renting a bunch of 70s era costumes, an afro, grew the mustache out, got a pair of nunchucks and a gun, and had a photo shoot dressed up as Black Dynamite. And in fact, the suit that he wears at the end of the movie, that was the first suit that he picked up in order to do this photo shoot. Did the photo shoot, started shopping that around as an idea. So sold an idea, built a trailer around that idea, just with all of these references to old Blaxploitation movies. Oh, Dime Store Jimmy's dead. They killed Jimmy. And, the hoes, the madam, Kim Whitley crying that one tear, the bad acting, the Pimp's Council. Yeah, all of that shit would fit into it, and they presented it to, I think, I'm not sure what the what the independent studio that they went to some independent place and they said, yeah, let's do it. And they sold this idea. So they sold an idea without a script. At that point, Michael J. White finds his director, Scott Sanders, and a good friend of his, Byron Mims, I think his name is, who plays Bullhorn in this movie, the Rudy Ray Moore Dolomite character who rhymes everything, is ridiculous, right. Bad kung fu. There's that moment where he's kung fu fighting a motherfucker, accidentally slaps him. The guy's like, motherfucker! The film stops. You can see that they spliced it with a different, lighter-skinned actor who then proceeds to get the shit kicked out of him. And Bullhorn goes back to being the bad motherfucker he is. I tell you, when you see that in a movie theater and you're not expecting it, half the audience is like, wait a minute, what the fuck just happened? And the other half is laughing their asses off because they know the amateur quality of this production, which is all just, bullshit because it's so deliberate and it's so much fun. But when I was talking to you about Michael J. White playing a character, I sent you the trailer. And if you haven't seen the trailer, go on YouTube, look up Black Dynamite trailer, look for the shorter one, because he did you watch both of them?
Yeah.
Okay, so the narrator is talking about Ferrante Jones. No, he said Black Dynamite starring Baltimore Colts running back Ferrante Jones. So Michael J. White is playing a character named Ferrante Jones, who was a former running back or a fullback for the Colts. They give Sally Richardson some weird name. Michael T. Williamson is William T. Michelson. It's just little shit like that. Just cracking me up. I'm watching it. I'm laughing my ass off because there's a fucking true passion here. And what bothers me is that we started to talk a little bit about this in a previous episode where we don't have the midnight movie culture that we once had. Otherwise, this movie would be one that people would be flocking to on a weekly basis because I think it's that good. I think it's that funny. People would be yelling at the screen and would be laughing at the fucking mistakes and calling out the shit and you would hear a lot of that. And these long weird these short but longer, oh my God, Bullhorn, a friendship that goes back years, debased by kung fu treachery.
Exactly.
There's shit like that is just, it's so badly written. Or Black Dynamite's brother in the beginning, who, one of you is not who you say, and this guy starts going off in ghetto slang, but he's doing it with a Shakespearean flair to it. It's shit like that where Blaxploitation films did that, where you had classically trained actors who were doing what they did, but it didn't fit in the milieu of the world that they were creating. And part of it, they actually quote William Gibson's performance in Blackula, where he had that regal, and that was part of the thing that we talked about how William Gibson that was his name, right? William Gibson?
I don't know if it was William Gibson.
I can't remember, but he was so good in that film that he was better than the film because the film wasn't allowed the potential that it could be. And you and I were talking about how it should have been remade with Delroy. Delroy Lindo would have been great in it if you had to update it. If you could update it, that would be perfect casting. This Black Dynamite is so aware of itself, but at the same time dedicated to the ridiculous world that it creates. And it's
William Marshall.
That's right. William Marshall. Gibson is the writer.
William Gibson's the dystopian neuromancer writer.
That's right. So I cannot really convey exactly in words how much I love this movie because it's comedy is incredibly difficult to pull off, and part of the problem in discussing it is if you talk too much about it and try to talk about why something is funny, you bleed the funny out of it. So all I can say is, as you watch it, you really dive into the ridiculousness of this hyper sexualized stereotype of the black man that Michael Jai White leans into and does it wink wink. You get the sense that he's winking at the audience, but at the same time he's never going to do it because he's dedicated to the character. I mean, it's hilarious. After they kill his brother in the opening, they kill his brother, and the police chief is looking around. Oh my God. He makes this speech about the fucking ghetto is going to burn. The rivers, it's going to be rivers of blood when they find out who they killed. But meanwhile, you see a woman being pleasured in bed. Then you see another woman. Then you see a third woman. Then you see the opposite angle of Black Dynamite fucking all of them in the same shot. That's a shot that's stolen from Rudy Ray Moore in Dolomite and the Human Tornado. They did that in that as well. And he's just pounding away at them. The Black Dynamite theme song, Dynamite, Dynamite. And as he's dressing afterward, putting on his watch, these women are like, Black Dynamite, that's the best loving I ever had. That goes second for me. I'm the same Black Dynamite. And what does he say? Calm down. Quiet down. You're going to wake up the rest of the bitches. And you pull back and you see like 4 other women passed out. I mean, how can you not just laugh your ass off at how fucking moronic that is? I'm sorry. I love it. Go ahead.
It's meant to be stupid.
Yeah.
But the reason I had seen I understood some of those references is because originally, because it reminded me of American Pimp.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about. And
I was watching it the other night, actually. It's incredible.
It has clips of Willie Dynamite. It has clips of the Mac. So when you have in the Mac, there's a scene where they're at a pool hall and an older pimp is talking to the young Mac, and he's like, the older guy kind of looks Jim Brownish too. Like an older Jim Brown, and he's like, pimping is big business. And it's been going on since the beginning of time. And it's going to continue straight ahead till somebody turns the lights out on this small planet. Then he says, can you dig it? And then the guy playing the Mac says, yeah, I can dig it. That scene is like, pops out of American Pimp. Or that the Willie Dynamite where the guy's like talking about, I respect your ambition, Willie, but you've got to have vision.
You got to collectivize.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, and it's like, it's one of those things that it suits American Pimp because American Pimp is full of these bizarre characters who are funny, but also you have to look past the funny and think like, oh, these guys are fucked up.
Yeah.
Because remember, they're fucking pimps and all of that. But the kind of it reaches into the ambivalence of in the neighborhood where that's who people see. They talk about that in American Pimp, that's who people would look up to that. They would look up to those people. They would see, pre-segregation, everyone was in the same. I mean, during segregation, everyone was in the same general area. So you had all aspects of society living within the same realm, segregated from whites, segregated from blacks. With segregation, with desegregation, you have you have a black flight. And so the neighborhood, this is kind of what creates the ghetto. Because you have like the great migration of African Americans from the South to all these different urban centers. And then you have white flight out of those urban centers into suburbs. And then once you have black professionals and black successful people able to move into other areas outside of the so-called ghetto, you're left with only a certain like rung of society in that area. And then now you start like, you segregate with freeways, you segregate with streets, major streets, etc. And there is this kind of like dual way of looking at a character like, let's say, the pimp, or the drug dealer, in the same way that kind of like The Godfather romanticizes the mafia. In the 70s, you have a kind of, you turn these people into anti-heroes, because while they are not straight up heroes because maybe they're selling drugs or they're somehow connected to the underworld or they're pimps or whatever, you show that, well, the actual villain is the structural villain. It's the cops. It's the societal, institutional shit. That's actually the villain. And usually you're going to have some kind of conspiracy, and there's going to be someone pulling the strings. And usually the person pulling the strings is fucking Whitey or something like
the man.
Someone like that. It's the man.
Mm-hmm. And the man is the structure. The man is the government. The man.
Correct.
It's convenient, but it's also something that is, like, it's palpable. It's real. It's true. I mean, I joke about it now, but I still kind of believe it. I still believe that the man you're up against the fucking man.
I mean, we are all up against the man.
We are.
The man is real.
Yeah.
And so you get the emergence of these characters who are fighting the it's like in those Tom Cruise Mission Impossible or 007 or anything, where at a certain point he's been betrayed by his version of the man, and now he's abandoned and he's like rogue.
Mm-hmm.
You have that with all of those kind of characters. Keanu Reeves in whatever this new series, or what is it called? Just the series where he's had his renaissance, where he's just a badass. He's the Baba Yaga. What's the series called?
The Baba Yaga? The John Wick. John Wick.
Yeah, John Wick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same kind of thing, only in the Blaxploitation films and there's films like this where he's CIA, it's like he was abandoned since the beginning, since birth, because he's black. So society already abandoned him.
I told you honky motherfuckers from the CIA that I was out. But it's like, I'm sorry.
He's a Vietnam veteran. He's a Vietnam veteran, so he's a hero, but he's like, he walks that line.
Mm-hmm.
And they have these stories. Everything is a way to reveal backstory in these movies. And he tells a story about this Chinese. I mean, he's in Vietnam, but it's Chinese because that's the stereotype. So he's like, this Chinese kid's lying down on his face, and then they show the kid like lying on his back.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I just saw that little Chinese boy, and he's talking to me. He's looking up at me with those little Chinese eyes, and he starts talking to me in Chinese, because I could understand his Chinese, but I couldn't really understand Chinese, but I knew what he meant to say. Mm-hmm. And it goes into, it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Why Black Dynamite? Why?
Right.
It's moronic.
Everything. And then in my time in the CIA, being in the CIA,
Yeah.
I did things in the CIA.
Well, that where that comes from, and Michael J. White talks about it. You would see there was a movie with Jim Brown. I can't remember which one, where he would be a nightclub owner, but he was ex-CIA, and then he would like shoot like 9 people in the street with witnesses, and then just get in his car like nothing ever happened. Like there was no repercussions for it. So it was like, what the fuck is this guy's backstory? Michael J. White was laughing, but he was saying, what is this guy's backstory that allows something like this within the ridiculousness of the story that is being created? Because, and we've talked about this in the past, that you can make some wild and crazy shit, but it has to exist within the parameters of the reality of that world.
Yeah, there has to be an internal logic.
Yeah, there has to be an internal logic, and this movie does that. It really, I mean, there's a plot by Whitey to shrink the black man's dick. Yes, there's an island of kung fu fighting, fiendish. There's fiendish Dr. Wu, which is like one of the worst stereotypes I've ever seen. But somehow you're just sitting there going, all right, let's just go with how stupid. Is it offensive?
Yeah,
is it offensive, or the fact that it's mocking a very real genre? Is it acceptable because of that? That's where the question. I'm not offended, but I recognize why I'm not offended. You know what I mean? Where it's like, yeah, that is offensive, but I mean, because he's Roger Yuan, I think his name is, who was the fight coordinator on this film. He has the long mustache, the bald head. He's stroking the mustache, the kung fu outfit, and he's hilarious in it. He's fucking great.
Yeah, I mean, it knows that it's being offensive because it's mocking the films that were offensive. Yeah. It's mocking all of that. So it's not just it's not, what is this, dead nigger storage?
Yeah, exactly.
That's let me get my little, I can say, nigger pass. That's what Tarantino's doing.
Yeah.
This isn't that.
No, not at all.
Tarantino may be a fan, but Tarantino also wants an excuse. And he wants to, I think, also ride that fine line between all of that. He's not racist because he loves black cinema. And he makes black cinema.
And he makes movies. Right? His intent is to make a movie that black fathers would feel is a rite of passage to watch with their sons. That's why he's not racist.
Right.
I mean, do with that what the fuck you want.
We're also lucky that we got that he wasn't like, once they get out of jail, they can go watch it with their sons. We're lucky we didn't get that.
No doubt it was in the thoughts, though. I'm just, I don't like the motherfucker, and
it's and people are fucking complex.
Yeah.
But this film knows exactly what it's doing. It's doing it very deliberately, and it's doing it brilliantly. And it's stupid, but it's brilliant because it's stupid on purpose. And yeah, that whole island, it's Enter the Dragon. Jim Kelly is in Enter the Dragon. There's even, I don't know what the exact line is, but there is a part where he's like, you know what, suddenly I want to leave this island. And that's, the Jim Kelly character says something like that. And there were even parts that reminded me of Blade Runner.
Yeah, really.
In that scene, in that portion of the film where he's on the island,
Mm-hmm.
once they start fighting inside the lab, there are like there are like eyes.
Eye jokes, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if they get torn off out of the face, or it's.
I think he puts his thumbs in the eye and he rips them out, and then he throws them at Fiendish Dr. Wu. And I can't refer to the guy as anything but Fiendish Dr. Wu.
Yeah, exactly. But if you think of Blade Runner, when Batty goes to
James Hong
to find out, when he goes to James Hong to find out about his creator, he's working on eyes.
Yeah.
And so there's, I mean, it's a stretch, but that's what it reminded me of.
All it matters is what it takes you back to.
That's true, but at the same time, like, I wouldn't doubt that they're drawing on all kinds of different films, because you can see it. You can see how deeply they're into it, and it's one of those things where it's like, wow, like Tarantino does that as well, but it's the way that it's done, and it's what it gives you. And look, like, I will give credit to Tarantino when I believe that it's due, but I'll also, I mean, I think it's a mixed bag with him, and so this just doesn't seem as The White Boy Who Stole the Blues. I mean, for obvious reasons, yes, but Tarantino does have more of that aspect of love and theft.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than this, which is much more, I think, deliberate in its more deliberate and playful in its presentation, and in its probably in its inception. Now, that being said, I don't know that because Tarantino is doing it, I think, consciously, but I think also, like, it's a mixture of, like, homage, plagiarism, and genuine like, inspiration. I think Tarantino, because it's more complicated, maybe I think he is capable of reaching greater heights with it. And
I think his platform. I think, first of all, his platform is much larger. So yeah, well, he's going to reach greater heights.
Now it is. Yes, now. But if we go back to Pulp Fiction, I've said it before. I think it was an inspired project that everything just kind of clicked.
Yeah.
And he's never been able to have that kind of mix before, but in other stuff where he's done it more consciously, you don't get, I don't think, as much of the magic.
Well, I think with Tarantino, what you're talking about, or at least the way I view it, is that it stops being somebody who is genuinely in love, and it becomes somebody who is I think it becomes an industry that enables the worst aspects of a person's ego. So instead of somebody saying, well, you can't do this or you shouldn't do that, and he has to fight for what he believes in, he's got everybody telling him how great he is, and he's an inspiration, and he's the greatest filmmaker of the 20th century. He out Scorsese's, out De Palma's, out Billy Friedkin's every director that has come before him, and he is the salvation of cinema. I'm exaggerating, but I seem to remember that's the way Tarantino was heralded back in the early 90s. So where you had truly great visionary directors like, I would argue, Fincher and Nolan later on, but also human directors like Paul Thomas Anderson, who he has his excesses as well, but not to the same degree as a Tarantino. The difference is, I think, with I've said this in the past in conversation off mic. I might have said it on mic. I've always gotten the impression that Tarantino was and is somebody who is deeply uncomfortable being white, with the lameness of what he perceives as most white people, and now he is the baddest white motherfucker out there who can say nigger when he feels like it, and feels as though he has earned it because he is that bad motherfucker. You know that when
your wallet.
Yeah, he's, when you watch Pulp Fiction, you don't get the sense that Tarantino feels he's Vincent. You get the sense that he really badly wants to be Jules. He wants to be the baddest motherfucker there.
If not Marcellus Wallace,
Yeah. Yeah. He wants to be the guy driving all of that, the coolest motherfucker there. It's funny because right now, as we're recording this last week, he started up a big fucking debate on the internet. Social media was going crazy for a couple of days because he shit all over Paul Dano in There Will Be Blood.
Oh yeah. What's that about?
Well, what he said was he was on a podcast with somebody, was talking, and he was saying, because he's such a fucking authority, people want to know what he watches and what he thinks is great. And I think he named There Will Be Blood as the third or fourth best movie of the 21st century. But he made it a point to say it would have been much higher if it hadn't been, and he says, I got to say this, if it hadn't been for Paul Dano, his performance. He called him weak sauce. He called him the shittiest, weakest actor in SAG.
He pronounced Dano or Dano?
Dano. I'm not sure how he pronounced it. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Dano, I think.
Okay.
But he just shit all over him and said what a weak actor. He also shit on Owen Wilson and Matthew Lillard as well. But it was Paul Dano who took the brunt of it. To Dano's credit, he hasn't responded. A lot of people have come out, and I think it's funny to me because as good, and I think Tarantino is a good filmmaker as far as entertainment value of filmmaking, of storytelling. He's a good filmmaker. He is overrated as far as the strength of his storytelling. Like, I can't take away his influence, because I'd be an asshole if I tried to say that he's not as important a filmmaker as he's been elevated to. I mean, people love him, and the influence is obvious. You see it everywhere, especially during the mid and late 90s. You couldn't think of all the Tarantino ripoffs that you saw that came out of people trying to copy his style, and none of them doing it correctly or doing it particularly well. But I honestly believe that he is a guy who is incredibly uncomfortable with his lame, or what he perceives and what a lot of people perceive as his lame white ass. That's why when you see him he's always the worst part of his movies.
Of course,
yeah. Whether it's Jimmy in Pulp Fiction, or what do you call it? The character that he plays, the bar owner in Death Proof, but also pay attention to the voiceovers that he does in The Hateful Eight. I mean, his voiceover is horrible. It's fucking horrible. The only movie he's ever really... What's that?
I'm cutting you off, but I
No.
was like, his best work, for all the wrong reasons, I think, is From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
Because
Think about it, though. He's playing a pervert. A foot
that's what I'm saying.
fetishist scumbag pervert, and it is his best performance. A guy that is caught up, a guy in the shadow of his much cooler older brother, and Clooney does exude coolness in that film. Clooney is very good in that film, and it's before he became George Clooney. It's before he became. I don't think he would dare make that movie today. That kind of an anti-hero, that kind of a bank robbing accomplice to murder and rape. At least you have to acknowledge that aspect of the character. But that's the shadow that Tarantino is in. So when you watch his blaxploitation versus something done with, I get the sense that when Tarantino directs material and he does something black, I'm going to do something better than has ever been done. I'm going to give black people something to really cheer for. I mean, he basically said that with Django. But you don't get that sense with Scott Sanders, Byron Mims, and Michael J. White. These guys are living their childhood dream. And there's something a lot more powerful than that. There's something a lot more telling. I think this is a much better movie than Django. Django's fun to a degree, and the performances are good, but
Yeah.
it's so heavy-handed and in your face about what it's trying to do that it never exceeds its intent. Like it should be great art. It should be. If you didn't have the bullshit of a Quentin Tarantino, it would be a much better
because
film.
it's about him.
Yeah.
Django is, and I don't mean literally the story is about him, but I mean like the project is about him.
It pretty much is about him. It might not be literally, but it is. No, I see what you're saying, and I think it's even more. Yeah. It's even more than you're saying. I think he's viewing himself as.
And I'm agreeing.
Yeah, you agree?
You don't even have to sell it on me. As soon as I said it's not, I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And there's a difference between the idea of if you don't see the film, the book, the song, the fill in the blank that you want in the world, you need to go create it. That's different than me saying it's about him, because I think it's very it just feels very ego driven. And again, let's give some disclaimers to that too, because it's kind of like, well, all films have to be ego driven to a degree, because you need that vision. You've got to have vision, right? But at the same time, it's the project takes on an identity of its own, and it has to be larger than you.
Yeah,
and you're serving it. I think that a lot of Tarantino films at this point serve him.
I think certainly probably after Jackie Brown, that became the standard.
I would say so.
Yeah. I think,
Death Proof, I think, is one of those more of an exception in that it stayed like relatively small, and while it did like highlight some of his fetishism, which fuck it, I mean, I'm not judging him for that, I think I'm like, yes, like I want to see who that person is also, because I do believe in the auteur theory to the extent that like this whole team is working to create the vision of this person. I want to see the director's stamp on a film. I want to see the director's fetishes on the film, if that's what it is.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, cool, bring on the toes, you know. But the thing is that it's like when it becomes this like racial thing, it's interesting, but it's just kind of like, yeah, it goes back to, it looks like you're lame. You know what I mean? Like you're just trying to be cool by proximity. And you want to hang out with the cool kids so that you can be perceived as cool. But that just means that, like, to mix the metaphors at this point, it's like, well, now you're the one with the little bit. You've been drinking that malt liquor.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one with that zoomed in shot of the penis that this film has, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the going back to this one, to see the references and like Easter eggs or whatever, and it's fun. It's fucking cool. It's a
fucking great time, and it comes out of a very vibrant and overpowering film genre, and an incredibly underserved audience. You know, when we talk about Superfly, Shaft, Three the Hard Way, we talk, you know, these are films that black audiences embrace, and a lot of times they know that the production value isn't all that great, but they're like when you watch Dolomite is bad. Dolomite is really bad, but there's something very, and it's not so bad that it's not so bad that I love it because it's bad. There's something about it that I think is Rudy Ray Moore's dedication to telling this story, as ridiculous as it is, and make it his own thing, and making himself a star. And I will admit that the Eddie Murphy, Craig Brewer film that told the story of the making of that film elevates the material, because Murphy tells that story with such passion and true love for Dolomite. But that goes towards selling what I'm talking about. The fact that Murphy would make a movie about this guy who is by all means just mediocre as an actor, writer, can't kung fu fight his way out of shit. But I'm watching Dolomite laughing my ass off, and then to see clips of Dolomite's kung fu fighting hookers. Did you see that? Where they were at some banquet. Did you see the scene that was, it was basically a montage of the ghetto burning down and Black Dynamite going to war with the drug dealers. Yeah. But those girls, because they mentioned it earlier, I've been keeping the girls up with their kung fu. And then you see the girls with their kung fu where they're just running around doing karate chops in the air. I mean, it's moronic. I mean, it's so fucking moronic.
But it's the kind of shit that you would see. It's the kind of shit that you would see and that you would...
it's on point. This. Yeah.
You go to a movie theater as a little kid, mm-hmm. and you come out swinging.
Yeah.
And it's, whether it's like American Ninja, and American Ninja is, there's the white guy and the black guy, right?
Yeah. It was Steve something and Michael Dudikoff. Steve James, I think. Yeah. It's
all of that. It's all of that shit, and it goes beyond Bruce. I mean, there's the whole thing about the idea of the black militant who's learning martial arts, mm-hmm. And all of that, and where they're training in the it looks like some kind of like rec center converted into the headquarters of
of the Black Panthers.
Of the Black Panther type of shit, and yeah, and then it's Jim Kelly.
Yeah.
It's all of those. It goes into American Ninja type of shit because it just keeps the genres just keep rolling when you start watching something, and it just leads you into Van Damme and all this other shit, and it just takes you through all of that. And it's got the nostalgia, it's got the references, it's got the proximity to the material, the cultural proximity to the material. But also the distance that allows you to do it in a way that doesn't feel, again, Tarantino's outside the material, but he's too close to it. And it's got the female love interest who is the Black Panther chick, like who's
The
a
good
little
girl.
bit of Pam Grier, and
Yeah.
a bit of this, a little bit of that. Yeah. And it all ties in.
Yeah.
It's because it just leads you on it's like a hyperlink. It just leads you to thinking about Curtis Mayfield's music and or even like Lalo Schifrin, like all the shit that he was doing in the 60s and 70s with funky music and the bongos and in the chase scenes and all of that.
I think one of the things that really is one of the really great aspects of the film is that it's very aware, like you said, it's very the boom shot, where he kind of breaks the third wall or the fourth wall when he kind of looks into the, there are moments, it knows it's a film, but it never winks at the camera. It never winks in the camera at, you know what I mean? Where it like
let's play it straight.
Yeah, it's played straight and like where Michael Jai White looks, where the camera, where the boom mic comes in the frame, and Michael Jai White says something, he gives a weird look, or when the guy says the militant turned startled, where he's reading the
description.
Yeah, the description. And Michael Jai White kind of looks like, are you going to cut? Okay, we're not going to cut. Okay, so we're going to go with this. It's within the context of the movie that is being made, of the production, not the movie, but the production, which means that it's meta on that level of recognizing the mistakes that were made in the movie. There was one actual mistake in the film that they left in because it was so on point of what these movies were, and it's when he and Sally Richardson they go to that Roscoe's Donuts and Chili, and if you're LA, you know. If you're LA, you know. So, as the guys are shooting at them, it's either that scene, or I think it's that scene where that Cadillac drives up and they start shooting at him. The guy forgets to put the brake on, and the car continues to move, and the guy has to get back in the car and stop it. That wasn't meant to happen. That actually happened, okay. and Scott Sanders and Michael Jai White were like, "That's exactly what would have happened in the 70s. Leave that shit in."
Yeah.
And I just love that moment. But there's so many things in this film where it's just like, where he I think he throws some kind of knife. He cuts off Fiendish Dr. Womb's arm, and he said, I threw that shit before I came into the door. I was just like, this is a level of ridiculousness, and then all the way to the end where this shit goes to the very top, and it always goes to the very top. Who is it? It's Tricky Dick. It's Richard Nixon.
It's Richard Nixon.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about the political aspect of that, where it's like...
Yeah,
You
well,
swing
yeah,
hard, you know?
yeah. Well, the cutting off the hand is another. Let me. Well, I've already. Hold on. Have you seen Into the Dragon?
Yeah, yeah. I know the film.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
Okay. The villain has a detachable. He has a detachable hand that he subs in for different weapons.
Yeah.
Um,
He's got
so
like a
that's
saw
a
in it or
reference.
something, and he's got like a
He
like a
has
multi. Stupid.
he has the stiff like hand, and then at one point the main one is where he changes it out for like a type of like metallic like clawed hand, and that's the one that when they're in the mirrored room, he slashes Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee like tastes his blood and gets all pissed off.
Yeah. Iconic, very iconic.
Yeah, iconic. And so there's that. There's also a point where I don't remember what. I think it's when it might be where they're. Well, okay. Let me back up. When the one you just mentioned, where he said, I did it before I even walked in the room. That evokes Muhammad Ali.
Yeah. I could turn
Ali,
off the lights.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's 1974. The Rumble in the Jungle at the press conference. He's like, I'm fast, I'm bad, and then how fast are you? And he says that like he can get up out of bed, hit the switch, and be in the bed before the room gets dark.
Yeah.
So that evokes that.
Yeah.
There's also a moment where they're throwing objects like off to the side, and then they come from the other side to kill part of Black Dynamite's crew when they're fighting. They're basically breaking that rule of like I forgot what it's called.
The 180-degree rule, where you cross the line of
exactly, yeah. And so at one point, I think it's in reference to that. It's as a result of one of those things that gets thrown. They go, "Where did it come from?" And then they all point up. And that's a reference to MLK.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God.
Because there's a shot of like
on the balcony.
There's a photographic shot of when they're saying like, "Where did it come from?" type of thing, and they point to where the gunshot came from.
Yeah.
So that references that, and it's very clear the way they do it. So which also kind of evokes Spike Lee, because Spike Lee would do shit like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so there's so much that you can find, and there are different ways of winking at the camera for different reasons. There's the "look how cool I am." We just did Holy Mountain, where the fourth wall is broken. He does that for to drive a philosophical point. And to say this is all an illusion. In this film, it's breaking it to kind of create to further enhance the sense that this is a fucking 70s film where these things happen. And all three are ways to do it. Some I think are more interesting than others. So yeah, this is a really, really well made bad film.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of the funnest times that you will have at a movie. I would love for an audience to find this. There be local screenings. This would be one of the few times that I could go to a movie and I wouldn't care how loud the audience was, because it would just be a great time. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and laughs in the movie itself. And I just gotta say, it's like you don't often see a film that has as much going for it as this one does, and it's it fully embraces what it is, where it comes from, and what it wants to be. And I just love every second of it for that. I just to tell you a little story before we get out of here. I was working at the Ace Hotel in downtown LA, and I guess it must have been about, God, I don't even like to think about it, but it must have been about 12 or 13 years ago, right? You would say? Maybe 15? Yeah.
I can't. Maybe less, but I can't. I think it might have been less.
11 or 12 years. Definitely a decade. Anyway, I remember being there, and we would have premieres over at the United Artists Theater, that theater that was right next to us, and they were doing some mini-series. I think it was either the Underground Railroad or they might have redone Roots. I can't remember, but it was star-studded, and it had a lot of people that were parking with us. Sally Richardson, who played Black Dynamite's love interest in this film, she came in. So I'm hanging out and I'm getting cars, I'm running cars, I'm putting shit away, valeting, and she comes up with her ticket, and I said, well, come on, I'll help you go get your car. So she's walking with me, and I was just talking with her. She might have got the impression I was flirting with her. Maybe I was, but I don't think she knew that I knew who she was. I just started talking to her. I was like, okay, yeah, you looking for your car? I'll come with me. We'll go take care of that right now. And there was this line. It must have been about 50 or 60 people waiting to get their keys. And she was like, don't we have to wait in this line? And I looked at her and I said, oh, Black Dynamite's woman doesn't wait for her keys. And she lost it. She just fucking lost it. She was like, oh my God, I can't believe you. And I was like, you wait here. I'll go get your vehicle, ma'am. And I made her fucking day right then and there.
That's a great story. That's great. Yeah.
She was great. She was wonderful. Cool. She was really, really, really a sweet lady. As beautiful as you can imagine. I mean, she's beautiful in the film, but in real life, oh my God, what a gorgeous woman. But very nice, very down to earth. And that was one of the best times that I had doing that job. And I just, every memory of this movie is a good one, from the time from seeing it in the theater to introducing it to you, to meeting her, to every other person that I've ever recommended it to and told. And they'll ask me, what is it? And I was like, you just have to kind of watch it. You just kind of have to sell out to whatever the fuck it is that you're watching, because the rewards are so great. And, you got a pimp named, you got two pimps, one named Mo Bitches and the other one named Chocolate Giddy Up. And then you got a Captain Kangaroo pimp. There's something about this film where it goes back to the old, Airplane Mel Brooks school of, we don't care how fucking ridiculous the joke is, let's throw it in there and see what happens. And I gotta say, for me, that's a great thing. I love this film. I cannot tell you, this is one of the best films of the 2000s into the 2010s. Like you said, like the way you were describing, there's so many different layers to it. It's such an onion of a film that you just keep peeling and finding more. The funny is funny, but there's also like a political, there's a social, and there's a cinematic importance to the film. And I think if you watch it, and if you're open-minded, you'll get that.
Let me ask you one thing before we go, though.
Yeah.
You talk about its potential to be this like cult classic midnight cinema thing.
Yeah.
Does the audience have to be old enough and familiar enough with the original genre, the blaxploitation genre? I mean, obviously they need to know it in order to get the most out of it. Um,
No, not necessarily. The film is funny like that, but I also think the film is broad enough for you to know, wait a minute, this is making fun of something. I think if you know, okay, I'll say this. You don't have to know the specific genre, but you do have to know movies. And you have to know the way movies are made and the politics behind movies and a little bit about the history of the culture. And I'm not talking about just black culture. I'm talking about American culture in its in what's being depicted, because that plays a big part of it. But I also think that there are certain aspects of the film that are so iconic that they are played out in. They're definitely played out in comedies that have come since. The music of the Wu-Tang Clan. If you listen to Wu-Tang, there's a lot of sound clips from old Hong Kong Shaw Brothers movies, but also these movies. You listen to Too Short. But Too Short is dated as well, but you know what I'm saying. Right. But if you watch,
Wu-Tang is dated.
Wu-Tang is dated as well. I don't know what is currently being made, but this was years after me, and and without having seen a lot of blaxploitation, only knowing about it in a peripheral sense, I think you'll enjoy it. I think the enjoyment of it will be a lot more if you know the material that it comes from. But I think if you have an understanding of black culture, and music, culture, comedy, it's not too hard to get to that place. And these films have been referenced. And I wanted to mention it really quick, where it was like, if you watch In Living Color, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Damon Wayans, David Alliger, Jim Carrey, if you watch Martin, a lot of the fabric of those shows were built on the blaxploitation films that came before it. There were constant references to it. And it's what's great about it is that you can watch and go, well, wait a minute, where does that come from? And it's like anything in this world, where does that come from causes you to start digging in to the treasure trove. So I think with Black Dynamite, if you don't know the references, you'll watch it and think that comes from somewhere. And if you're on Instagram, the algorithm will start sending you shit. And you'll see Willie Dynamite. You'll see Gordon from Sesame Street as a pimp. You'll see Nichelle Nichols as, Lieutenant Uhura as the bottom bitch that goes to war with her pimp. You'll see all this shit, and you'll start to discover a whole cinematic world that wasn't made necessarily for you, but that everybody is that is available to everybody. And I think that's one of the powerful things about movies, is that they let us understand each other a little bit better. Now, that's not to say that you should look at those films as documentaries or the thing that teaches you about black culture. No, it teaches you about popular black culture and the shit that a lot of black men and women were watching, and why they would embrace something like this, because they finally get to play the heroes. And there was no bigger hero at the time in the 70s than Fred Williamson, Jim Brown, Richard Roundtree, Pam Grier, Isaac Hayes, Billy D. Williams. I mean, it was an important genre of film. It didn't get the production value that it deserved. But you're not going to sit here and tell me that Three the Hard Way is any more ridiculous than Mission Impossible. I mean, If you want to say
Right.
both of them are ridiculous, then I'll agree with you on that. But you're not going to tell me that, oh, these black men fighting these ex-CIA operatives. No, no, it's the same level of ridiculousness. And that's kind of why that is kind of at least one of the reasons that we go to the movies in the first place. Motherfuckers want to see themselves as the hero. And that's what that genre did, and did beautifully.
100%. Buymeacoffee.com/watch RickRamos. That's buymeacoffee.com/watch RickRamos. This episode is for Slim Slim for his generous donation, contribution. You guys are interested, you can do the same. Hit us up once again, buymeacoffee.com/watch RickRamos. Keep us caffeinated, keep us awake. Goodbye.